In 1356, England and France were in the midst of the Hundred Years' War, considered one of the most violent conflicts in European history. The Battle of Poitiers took place on September 19th and became a decisive turning point in the conflict. Here, the English King Edward III managed to achieve a major victory over the French forces, which redrew the map of the conflict and left a profound impact on the history of England and France. As the sun rose on the morning of the battle, the English camp was filled with excitement and anxiety. King Edward III met with his military leaders, where strategies were carefully laid out. Weapons were being prepared, flags were flying, and everyone felt the importance of this battle. On the opposite side, the French forces were gaining in size, led by Prince John II. They were superior in numbers, with thousands of knights and infantry. The ground was shaking under their feet, and the atmosphere was filled with confidence. But they did not know that the terrain would play a decisive role. With the drums beating, the battle began suddenly. The French advanced in close ranks, trying to put pressure on the English lines. The sounds of swords were rising, screams filled the air, and hearts were pounding violently. The battle was taking place in difficult conditions, as the rain had turned the ground into mud. However, the soldiers continued to fight relentlessly. Blood was falling, and soldiers were falling, in a horrific scene that revealed the horrors of war. King Edward benefited from the experience of the archers, who fired their arrows heavily at the French forces. The arrows were falling like rain, causing heavy casualties among the French. Tensions began to rise, and signs of anxiety appeared on their faces. As the pressure increased, the ranks of the French forces began to collapse. The soldiers tried to retreat, but the muddy ground hindered their movement. The moments were pivotal, as the soldiers began to feel despair, leading to total chaos. King Edward III took advantage of the collapse of the French forces and ordered his soldiers to rush forward. This was a dramatic moment, as the battle turned in favor of the English, and victory was within reach. Screams of joy began to rise in the English camp. In the chaos, Prince John II was captured, which had a huge psychological impact on the French forces. Everyone realized that things were over, and the troops began to retreat dramatically. It was a moment of great significance as the course of the war changed. Despite the collapse, some French soldiers showed extraordinary courage. They fought to the end, determined not to surrender, but few were able to change the course of the battle. These moments were a reminder that courage can come from the deepest places. As night fell, the battle was over. The English stood on the battlefield, surrounded by the bodies of the enemy. The losses were great, but the victory was theirs. This moment, where joy and sorrow intertwined, became part of history. The Battle of Poitiers profoundly affected the course of the Hundred Years' War. King Edward used this victory to gain political advantage and succeeded in strengthening England's position in subsequent negotiations. Poitiers marked the beginning of a new phase in the conflict. The Battle of Poitiers has become a symbol of heroism and courage. History remembers it as one of the decisive battles that changed the course of events in Europe.